In the world of AI, there's this constant battle between getting a smart answer and getting a fast one. Well, today we're going to dive into a new system called METIS that might just let us have our cake and eat it too. Let's get into it.
You know the feeling, right? You ask an AI a really tough question. Sometimes you get a super fast answer that's, well, a little basic. Other times you get a brilliant, detailed response, but it feels like it takes forever. So that begs the question, can we get the best of both worlds? Can we really make an AI that's both incredibly smart and incredibly fast?
Okay, to really wrap our heads around this, let's use an analogy. Picture your AI as this brilliant, maybe a little stressed out digital research assistant. Its whole job is to dive into mountains of data and come back with the perfect answer just for you.
So, what's the secret sauce that makes this assistant so smart? It's a technique called Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or RAG for short. Now, all that really means is we're giving our AI assistant a massive, always updated digital library. So instead of just relying on what it remembers from its training, it can look things up on the fly. That's how its answers stay so fresh and relevant.
But here's the catch, and it's a big one. The bigger you make that library, the more documents, the more knowledge you give our little research assistant, the slower it gets. I mean, think about it. It's one thing to summarize a single article, but it's a whole other beast to summarize an entire encyclopedia. More information just means more work.
And this creates a really fundamental conflict, one that any person who's ever written a research paper totally gets. It's the constant tug-of-war between doing really deep, thorough work and actually hitting your deadline. And here's what that trade-off looks like in practice. You want a top-notch, high-quality answer? Well, your assistant has to read a ton of source documents and do some really complex thinking. All of that takes time and a lot of computer power. You want a super fast answer? Okay, then it's got to do the opposite. Skim just a few key sources and use simpler logic. The two goals are just pulling in opposite directions.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. The actual researchers behind METIS say it loud and clear. Finding that perfect balance between quality and speed is one of the most essential challenges for these kinds of AI systems. You can't just crank one up to 11 without hurting the other.
So how does an AI even handle this? Well, it all comes down to the research strategy it picks for any given question you ask. You can think of this strategy as a little game plan, a set of technical settings that tells it exactly how to tackle the job. Let's break that down. For every single thing you ask, our assistant has to make some choices. How many pages is it going to pull from the library? How's it going to read them, all at once or one at a time? And how detailed should its summary notes be along the way? Each of these is like a dial it can turn, and every single tweak has a huge impact on both how fast you get your answer and how good that answer is.
So one common strategy is just called stuff, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. Our assistant grabs all the relevant pages, metaphorically tapes them all together into one giant document, and then reads the whole thing in one go to figure out the answer. It's simple, for sure, but you can imagine how that giant scroll can become a real problem.
Now, another strategy is called map reduce. This one's a little more sophisticated. Here, our assistant reads each page one by one, and for each one, it jots down a little summary, like on an index card. Then, it just gathers up all the index cards and writes the final answer based on those. It's a little more work up front, but that final step is a whole lot easier to manage. So which one's better? Well, that's the whole issue. A simple fact check, when was the Eiffel Tower built? That probably just needs the quick and dirty stuff method. But a big, complex question like, compare and contrast the economic policies of the last 3 presidents, that needs a much more careful approach, like map reduce. Using the same strategy for both is just wildly inefficient. And this brings us to a really powerful idea. The problem isn't that our research assistant is lazy or bad at its job. The problem is that it's been working all this time without a good supervisor telling it how to best approach each unique task.
And this is where the breakthrough happens. Let's bring in METIS. I want you to think of METIS as that brilliant, seasoned supervisor who finally shows up to manage our hardworking research assistant.
So what is METIS exactly? It's a system that acts as that supervisor for the whole research process. For every single question you ask, it first analyzes the task and then tells the assistant the perfect strategy to use. And this part is absolutely crucial. It also checks what computer resources are actually available before it even lets the assistant start working. So how does the supervisor work its magic? Well, METIS uses this really clever 2-step process to make sure every single query gets handled in the smartest way possible.
Okay, step 1. It triages the assignment. It takes a quick look at your question and immediately throws out all the obviously bad strategies. If it's a simple question, it won't even consider the super complex time-consuming methods. That's called pruning. Then, step 2. It checks the resources. Out of the good strategies that are left, it picks the best one that can fit into the computer's memory and start right now.
And this right here is the absolute game changer. The old way, an AI would just pick the strategy it thought was best overall, even if there wasn't enough computer memory free to run it. And what happens? Your question gets stuck in a line, just waiting. With METIS, it's smarter. It picks the best strategy that fits right now, so your question gets to jump the line and start immediately. The impact here is just huge. All that time you'd normally spend just waiting in a queue practically disappears. It proves it's not always about working faster. Sometimes it's just about starting sooner.
So what's the bottom line? What happens when you give our AI a brilliant supervisor? Well, you turn it into a truly world-class research assistant. Let's look at the results, because they're pretty amazing.
The researchers found that METIS delivers answers up to 2.5 times faster. And here's the most incredible part. It does this with absolutely zero loss in the quality of the answer. It's not a trade-off anymore. It's just working smarter.
And you can see it right here in the data. They compared it to another advanced system, and look, METIS achieves the exact same high level of quality, but in way, way less time. You get the same awesome answers, just in a fraction of the time.
So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that making AI better isn't just about building bigger, more powerful models, it's about building smarter processes. By teaching an AI to adapt its strategy for every unique task and to be smart about the resources it has right now, METIS just unlocks this massive leap in performance. It's how you get answers over twice as fast without compromising on quality one bit.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating thought to chew on. We've just seen an AI learn to overcome a very human problem, picking the wrong tool for the job. So it makes you wonder, what's next? What other bottlenecks in how we work, how we think, can smart systems like this help us overcome in the future?